Hey guys, Lytane here. Thank you for joining me in this video. It fills me with so much hope that you would do so. It's truly incredible. But this is still Danganronpa, so I am full of despair because I have to talk about another killing game. Today I'm going to see if Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair is worth it. Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair was released in 2012, 2 years after the first game on the PSP. It was localized in English in 2014, which might sound familiar because that was the same year that the first game was localized. It took them only 7 months after the first game to release the second. In Danganronpa 2, we follow another group of students from Hope's Peak Academy, and it all goes crazy very early on. When Hajime, the character that you play as, enters the school, strange things start to happen, and he finds himself in a class surrounded by other students. Then the reveal of the teacher for the class is Usagi! A cute bunny teacher. She takes them away to an island excursion. Yay! I wish my school took me on excursions like that. But wait, a bunny teacher taking us away on an island excursion? That does sound a little bit suspicious, doesn't it? She asks us to get to know each other and gather hope fragments. Okay, bunny. That seems a little crazy, but I'll listen to you for now. Whilst having fun on the island, a storm hits and disaster strikes, and out pops our favorite bear, Monokuma. He takes control of the island and all of its facilities. Man, this is gonna be bad. With him brings despair, and guess what? He says if anybody wants to get off this island, then a killing game has to happen. But why are you guys on the island? Why is Monokuma doing this to you? Who is Usagi, or should I call her Monomi now? And what is she up to? And whatever happened to the people from the first game? Wait a minute, who is that? Danganronpa 2 is a visual novel game exactly like the first one in the series. Now, for some reason visual novels aren't super big out in the West, but there are a few exceptions. The Phoenix Wright series is fairly big, the Professor Layton series was huge as well, which is a puzzle version of a visual novel. I did a review of it, so you can definitely check that out. As this is the second game in the series that I'm reviewing, there might be some slight spoilers from the first game in this review. I'm going to try and keep them all to a minimum and just talk about this game as it is, but I'm sorry if some little bits or spoilers come through. Like I said, this game is a visual novel, and as such, there is a whole lot of story here. This game, like the first, is split up into 3 major sections. We have the daily life side, which is the actual story. Here we get to interact with the characters, follow along with the main plot, and have some free time to spend with certain people in order to further our relationships with them. You know, those hope fragments. Then sadly, someone will die, usually set up within the daily life part, which enters the second phase, investigate. Here we will look for clues and try and find out who did the crime. This is the shortest part of the game by far. Lastly, we have the class trial, which is a bunch of mini games and story as each character tries to piece together the clues in order to find out the killer. 2 of the sections of the game, the daily life and the investigate, are practically the same as the first game. There are a few little differences, like in the daily life you have a mixture of third person and first person. Also, you'll be wandering around an island instead of a school, so that's different. But aside from that, it's fairly similar in terms of gameplay for those 2 sections. The third major section, the class trials, are fairly different because we have new minigames, we have expanded upon minigames from the first one, and we have improved versions of the first game's minigames. The first one I have to talk about are the non-stop debates, where everybody is talking and you have to listen to everybody speaking and then find out the lie. Instead of just finding out a lie in this, you can actually agree with certain statements and say, yes, you're right, instead of, no, you're wrong. I love saying that because it's great. And this adds a whole new dynamic to the entire thing because now you have to find not just a lie, but a truth. The improved Hangman's Gambit has letters flying across the screen. When 2 of the same letters touch, they become bigger, and then you can add it to the bottom. And if 2 letters that aren't the same touch, then they explode and you get hurt. You can pick up 1 letter at a time and drop it around so you can manipulate what's on the screen. And in my opinion, it's a lot harder than the Hangman's Gambit from the first game. That's probably why they improved it, because the first one was fairly easy. Panic Talk is still around, but it has been changed quite a bit. Instead of tapping your finger to the beat, you actually get to hold it down and when you release on the beat, that's when your attack happens, or your reload, or whatever it is you're trying to do. Also, at the end of these debates, instead of just firing a normal truth bullet, you will be spelling out a word or a very short sentence in order to answer a question to prove something to whoever you're having your panic talk with. Next we have the logic dive, where you'll be on a snowboard in this weird virtual reality thing as Hajime dives into his brain. You'll be going down, avoiding obstacles, making small jumps, and just going around the course, trying not to fall off. It feels a little bit like a snowboarding game, but a very, very basic version of it. Next up we have a rebuttal, where someone will be arguing with you and you have to slice through their words in order to get your point across. Eventually there'll be one that you can use a truth blade on in order to supercut it and go, "No, you're wrong," with a truth blade instead of a bullet. Yeah, it's pretty similar, but it works the same way. The final minigame are the closing arguments, where you'll have the entire case laid out in front of you, but there will be parts missing, so you have to fill in the blanks. This is given to you in a small selection of things, and this is incredibly different from the first game because you aren't given all of the options straight away. Also, there are red herrings, but you are also given clues, which is great. With all of these minigames to play, each class trial remains fairly interesting throughout. But not all games are created equal though. The improved Hangman's Gambit was one I found very annoying, especially in the later cases, as there are so many letters that are flying around and never the one that you want. The rebuttal selection is also a little annoying to play. The swipes don't feel nice and it wants you to focus on speed, but if you go too fast, you will lose. I like the idea of it, but I don't like the gameplay centered around it. The new Panic Talk is better and worse. I liked pressing the button to the beat, not holding it. Holding the button really threw me off, so I ended up just pushing the button to the beat anyway, and it made it so much easier. I especially dislike the sentence that you have to form at the end. It's stressful, and you need to do it really quickly, and if you make a wrong button press, too bad, you can't take it back, adding to the stress. All of these minigames are there to heighten the class trials and the murder mystery aspect of the game, which is done so much better than the first game. Oh my god, yes. One of my major complaints about the first game is that the class trials were too easy. I usually figured out who the murderer was and how they did it long before the class trial even began, which is a little boring because then you know what's going to happen. This game though, all of the cases are much more harder and they have more twists in them, so I didn't guess a lot of what was going on. The first trial I did guess, and I did know who did it and how they did it, and I forgive the game a little for that because it is the first trial, so that's fine. The second one onwards, I did not guess a whole lot of stuff. Usually I would have my suspects down to 1 or 2 people, and most of the time they were right, but not all the time. Also, I never ever guessed the red herring character because I'm like, that was too obvious game, you're trying to really point it at me. No, there can't be them. I also guessed a lot of how it was done, but there was still a lot of aspects that I didn't know. So this whole thing of me not knowing and having to learn with the characters was a lot more refreshing and therefore a lot better done than the first game. These trials, they're overall so much better. Even though I just praise the murder as being harder and more complex, it does come with a cost. The trials are much longer than the first game, and I feel like every little scrap of information has to be talked about at length, then pondered before you can finally decide upon it and move on to the next topic. Man, this can get slow and tedious at times, especially when I have a lot of the murder already figured out, and then I have to try and convince the others what I know is right, and they're just so slow at picking it up. Man, some topics are just talked about ad nauseum. These trials are now so long that about halfway through there is usually a twist in each trial, like a new clue or idea or suspect that we hadn't thought about coming up and being going, whoa, how could that be? After the twist, we're usually shown a little animation from Monokuma and Monomi. I don't think they really mean much, and then told to save the game. As this was done on the PSP, I can maybe understand that it was done in order to save during long plays, but you can save at any point in the trial anyway, so I don't know why they do this. It breaks up the flow of every case in the game, and I found it an unnecessary addition. The twists are fine, not the length of the trial, and definitely not that weird break in the middle. With such complex murder mysteries, it won't mean a damn if we don't like the characters that are getting murdered. So let's talk about the 16 people that we will be spending our time with on this island. I have to say though, straight off the bat, that most of these characters are kind of flat and boring, and I do not like them at all. Probably like half the cast. Where the first game I liked majority of the people, I could name them all and I really got to know them and I really got to like them. Here I struggle naming all 16 of them because it's just, they're a little bit more flat and a little bit more forgettable. Don't get me wrong, there are some great ones. Here, I just find the overall cast to be a little bit lacking compared to the first. The 3 characters that I really like in this game are actually the ones that are on this shirt, which is kind of the reason why I bought it. The first being Hajime, our main character. He is a lot better than Makoto in so many ways because he actually has personality, more than just strength, hope, do it for my friends. This guy actually has more complex emotions and he's like, I don't want to do something, or why would I care about you, and stuff like that. And he actually doesn't like people at times, so that is fantastic. I like that he has more depth to him, and I like that as a main character he actually is a little bit more well-rounded than Makoto was, because Makoto was pretty much just an everyday average person. The second character I really liked was Nagito, the man of hope and man of despair. He is so much fun. He is probably one of my favorite characters in all of Danganronpa because he is just so complex and so unique as a character. I love that he is so into hope and trying to do these things just like Makoto was. And he's such an evil person, but he's not actually evil at all. He's just trying to push people into hope, but he's doing it in a very douchey way. It's so much fun. He is so complex, and there is so much going for this character. He's definitely one of my favorites. The last character that I really liked was Chiaki. She is the ultimate gamer and my waifu. I'm never gonna use that term ever again because I don't like it, but if I could use it on anybody, it would be her. And I can relate to being a gamer as well, so fantastic. She is kind, she is sleepy, she is like really nice to everybody. She actually has a lot of character depth to her, but a lot of that is, you know, developed over the course of the game. I think she's so much fun, and I just loved hearing from her and spending time with her and all of her character development. It was fantastic. Definitely is my favorite character next to Nagito, really, in terms of all of Danganronpa. The last characters I want to mention are Nekomaru, who is so much fun. He's just this great character that has no depth to him, but that doesn't matter because he's a lot of fun. Hiyoko has a lot of depth to him, and is somebody that I did not like at the start, but I did grow to like him as the game went on. And lastly, Byakuya, or should I call him Fat Kuya? That's what my girlfriend and I'd call him because he's fat now. Yeah, that's like really mean. He was really fun and interesting, and because I love Byakuya from the first game, so you know, he's automatically one of my favorites, so boom. The flip side of this though is that I hated quite a few characters. Hiyoko is the ultimate traditional dancer, and she is so annoying, and even getting to know her in island mode still made me hate her. She is a brat and mean for no reason, and those are traits that I just don't like. Out of all of Danganronpa, Hiyoko is my most hated character. I really don't like her. I hate her even more than Yasuhiro and Doko. So I just hate her. I don't know why she's around, and I hate the fact that she's just so mean to everybody, especially Mikan. Kazuichi, the ultimate mechanic, is another annoying character. He is constantly hitting on one girl who doesn't like him. He is always suspicious of Hajime, and aside from being annoying and suspicious, he doesn't have all that much going for him in terms of plot or story. I don't get why he's even in the game. His ultimate mechanic ability is barely used as well. What a waste. Sonia Nevermind, the ultimate princess, annoyed me with her nonsense, which is supposed to be for laughs, but I just didn't care for it. Gundam, the ultimate breeder, was another middle ground character for me. I really didn't like him at the start, but as the story went on, I didn't hate him by the end. Didn't like him, but didn't hate him, so I guess that's an improvement. One major criticism I have for the game is the tone and the setting for it. The first game had you in a school which was all locked down, you had no windows, you had no sunshine, no sense of life, nothing. You were quarantined in this spot, and it was so oppressive and dark. The second game went a completely different route and put you on a tropical island where it's all open, there's sunshine, you can walk around, you have freedom in a sense, although you're trapped in all of the islands. This is such a different tone, and I don't think that it's very good. Because you are feeling like a little bit more lighter and happier and everything like that, the fact that you're in a killing game doesn't quite hit as hard. You don't feel like you have to kill to get off this island. It doesn't feel as oppressive. It doesn't feel like the motivation to leave is quite as strong as the motivation to leave the school was in the first game. I don't think it was done nearly as well, and I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity. I don't hate the idea that they used an island, and I know why they did it, because they wanted to have a little bit more extreme things that they could do in the game. Because at one point you see like a ranch, at another point you see a convenience store, and then you see a beach, and you can go to all these different locations that you couldn't do in a school. So I understand why they did it. I just don't like the tone that actually conveyed at the end. A lot of the plot points and beats are actually from the first game, and I can't go into any detail because it actually spoils the first game. But I was sitting there going, wow, you're gonna reuse the same idea? Okay, it's only the second game, couldn't think up anything original. By the end of the game, I fully understood why they did this, but for the majority of it, I had this negative feeling towards it, because I was like, I've seen these ideas before. And that's not something good, that's not something that I wanted to have through the game. The overall plot is also a little bit slow. The first half of the game is all focused on the new students, which makes sense because we have to get to know them. But this game has a slight disadvantage as it is a sequel. So of course you're going to be thinking about the first game and all of the characters from that and wanting to know what happened. I know I was. And that doesn't really get addressed until the second half of the game, and because of that I was going, I didn't like these characters as much, and I have to sit through all this stuff before I can get to the more interesting things. Once again, it's just a negative feeling that I had. Once again, there isn't really any replay value to the game. Once you finished it, that's it. There is no reason to play through again. There's no new routes, there's no new murders, there's no new endings, nothing. This game was also part of Danganronpa 1.2 Reload, which has a few extra features put onto it and a few quality of life upgrades like sprites and detailing, and a little bit of the script was changed and altered. This new version has a few extra game modes like Island Mode, which is not a killing game, yay! Instead, you have 50 days to get to know the characters. It's nice and peaceful and expands upon everybody. It's a nice minigame. It's also a little bit of a dating love simulator of sorts, because after you become friends with everybody, you can spend more time with them in order to build up their love for you, which gives them an additional ending, usually based on the story that they had when they were talking to you when you were getting to know them. We also have a mini story called Danganronpa If, which I'll talk about more in another video. It's a nice little addition, didn't need to be there, so that's cool. Lastly, we have Magical Miracle Girl Monomi, which has you controlling Monomi as she fights waves of enemies before she fights one of the beasts that were in the main game. This minigame is a piece of crap. The controls are horrible, the gameplay is so shite, and it's long and boring. You draw a circle around an enemy and that damages them. That's it. There is no nuance, there is nothing to this game. It sounds so horrible, and it is. It is just so bad. The music sucks, the gameplay sucks, and it has this upgrade progression thing where the enemies drop items to make you stronger, but that sucks because it's completely random and you can get the same item more than once and it doesn't do anything if you collect more than one. It's just really, really frustrating, and it has no bearing on the main game. It should not be there. Definitely get rid of it. Don't play it. In my opinion, I think that Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair is worth it. It is a very, very good sequel. The overall story is fantastic, and I was hooked from start to finish. Even though I did not like most of the characters, the few that I did like were simply amazing, and maybe you will like different ones than I did. I really enjoyed the fact that the cases were a lot more difficult and a lot more complex, because it was a lot harder and a lot more fun to go through, especially Case 5. Case 5 is my favorite case in all of Danganronpa. It was incredible to play through. No spoilers, but that one is my favorite. For some reason, this game also falls into the same problems that the first one had, including its pacing, and I don't get why they didn't fix that. Also, this has the improved Hangman's Gambit, which is a game that I really didn't like, so that can go away. But I think that the overall game and the rest of the trials, the complexity and everything else about it really make up for it, and I think it was really fun and interesting, and I could not wait to find out how it was going to expand upon the Danganronpa universe, and it did so in a very good way. So guys, tell me what you thought about Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think the cast was as good as the first one, or did you not like them as much like me? I found most of the cast to be kind of forgettable. I see online like people like Ibuki and Mahiru and Mikan are fairly popular, but I don't really see it. I didn't really like them. At least with Mikan, she had a little bit going for her because she's the klutz and she had some funny moments, but I didn't really like them at all. Also, did you hate Hiyoko as much as I did? Because, man, worst character in the series. Also, don't write any spoilers down below because I'll be releasing a video in a couple days that is all spoiler related if it's not out already. So if you do have any spoiler related thoughts, save it for then. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Get away with worder. Get away with worder. I can't even speak my worder properly. I gushed a little bit too much about Nagito. I should redo that. Play. The story is very captivating and interesting, and I think that you should definitely go and play it. You ruined my take, cat. Tell me if you liked, what's the name? It's not Himiko, because Himiko's from number 3. Oh gosh, I can't even remember and I hate her so much. Hiyoko.